Okay, here's what we can all start to expect. Starting today, the former combative media over the past 4 years suddenly, almost magically, become very friendly with the office of the president. They don't, where did I put those questions? CNN today pulled Jim Acosta from the White House beat and assigned him elsewhere. Why would you do that? Could it be that your combative theatrics and your monologues disguised, I guess, as questions are no longer needed in the White House? NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop story, but they certainly didn't miss the opportunity recently to write a hard-hitting piece on the inauguration of Joe Biden's German Shepherd. Melania Trump is probably the most beautiful first lady. She was a freaking runway model. But no, you didn't hear that. They didn't even have her on the cover of any magazine. It's interesting today how USA Today has started a style diary for Dr. Jill. And don't even get me started on Jane Pauley's fawning interview with Kamala Harris on CBS Sunday morning. Topics covered included the hard-hitting dive into her sneakers, as well as a declaration that if, quote, it might seem as though Kamala Harris was born for this moment in history. Wow. Well, how many times did we hear that about Donald Trump, Melania, or Mike Pence? Joining me now is the hard-hitting, truth-telling Megyn Kelly from the Megyn Kelly podcast, which I listen to all the time and love. Hello, Megyn. How are you?
Hi, Glenn. Preach. That's all I can say. I listened to your opening monologue and preach. Well done and well said.
How can we possibly come together when it appears as though CNN is leading the charge and leading the call to silence Fox, Newsmax, AON, probably you, us, all of talk radio? How can we possibly unite?
We're not going to unite. I mean, it's all nonsense. I mean, I like a good inauguration and a good speech just as much as anybody, and I feel patriotic whenever I witness them, and I root for the president and I root for America in the way that you described. But unity is fool's gold. You know, it wasn't too long ago we had a very dynamic president take office on hope and change, and there is no red state America, there's no blue state. It's nonsense. Even if they genuinely mean it, they don't change Washington. Washington changes them. And Joe Biden is Washington. He's been there for 50 years. I'm sure he will lower the temperature. Good. I like that. Good. Let's lower the temperature. We don't need crazy incendiary rhetoric and tweets every day. It may be fun to cover as a news matter, but the country, it will be better off to not have that happening. But what's happening substantively is worth fighting over. And it's not going to go away just because he gave a nice speech.
Right. I'm sorry. I vehemently disagree with your arguments. And, you know, I wish I felt as though the Democratic Party actually felt the way that I felt during the inauguration today. I saw the flags. I loved Lady Gaga's rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. I felt patriotic and proud. But those are the same people who are saying, take a knee, America is racist, the flag is a symbol of oppression. And the media is going to make my head explode. I mean,
so
help me.
100% right on all counts. Number one, they're the same people who are telling you that you have no right to object if your minor child wants to go get cross-gender hormones during the middle of the day, leaving school grounds to go get testosterone so she can go from female to male without you knowing. And if you want to object, where's your unity? Come on, we're supposed to pull together. Well, I will object. I will protect my family and what I think is right over Joe Biden's need for unity, which is false anyway. Unify behind my agenda is not a real call for unity. There's not going to be any concessions. Just look at what he's doing with the proposed amnesty that he's pushing right now. Legalization for 11 million people who are here undocumented, and no carrots for the Republicans. Not even a nod to border security, which is what we've seen in the past. Why? Because he doesn't care about unity. He cares about his agenda. Okay, point number two, the media. It's not just CNN. I mean,
I know.
I think they're the worst. It's hard to judge, but MSNBC tonight, Nicole Wallace, you know, their fake Republican, The person who brought us Sarah Palin and seems to be feeling a need to atone ever since for what she considers her sin, is over there saying that that Republicans should not be allowed to speak until they acknowledge the truth, that they should be banned. I wrote it down, that they should be banned because fake news has the potential to kill people. Fake news has the potential. You know what, Nicole Wallace? I agree.
I agree
like
too.
when your network and CNN and the Washington Post and ESPN reported that Jacob Blake was unarmed when he was shot by a police officer in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And you refused to let the facts play out, even though there were initial reports he was armed. And anybody who tried to claim, wait a minute, hold on, there are reports, got shamed on the internet for being a racist. And then the news came out that not only was he not armed, he admitted it. And then we saw him admit it on camera with Michael Strahan of ABC News. And what happened with the Washington Post? They tweeted out, unarmed Jacob Blake. Only later were they forced to take it down. MSNBC, after that, still had an opinion piece up on its website saying unarmed. So let's talk, Nicole Wallace, about misinformation, lies that lead to deaths, which is what we saw in Kenosha.
So I talked to Alan Dershowitz today on my program, and I said, Alan, you've seen this before. Have you seen this before? He said, 1950s, McCarthyism. Yep. He said, but we got past that because eventually he, was no longer in office. And I said to Alan, but it's not him this time. It's not one person. It's not even a small group. It's seemingly all throughout the power structure. So the theme of the show tonight, Megyn, is how we stand and save America. How do we do that against all of the forces that seem to be in lockstep now? Megyn, if you can give us some thoughts on how do we save America? How do we fight against this?
Glenn, you and I were both at Fox News after Obamacare was rammed down the throats of the American people with less than majority support. Mm-hmm. And you remember the Arlen Specter town hall where the woman stood up and said, "You have awakened a sleeping giant." And I think we're at another "you have awakened a sleeping giant" moment. The silent majority can be silent no more. People must speak out. And if you won't do it for your own sake, do it for the sake of your children. When your company comes to you and tells you you have to sit in a corporate seminar telling you you're a white supremacist by virtue of an immutable characteristic, something over which you had no control, which the law does not allow the federal government or even private industry in some instances to stigmatize and use against you, get a lawyer. First of all, speak up for yourself and have a lawyer ready. And legal groups are forming right now to help you. I know because I'm consulting on some of them. When your school tries to do this to your child and lets your child, shames your child because of his or her skin color and sows division where there was none between these little ones, or allows your child to leave school grounds to go eat cross-gender hormones, like I said before, without telling you, allows your kid to dress as the opposite sex for 2 years without ever telling you, saying your rights end at the schoolhouse door, get a lawyer. Get a lawyer. That's not lawful. And until we start challenging these things in the courtrooms and in the court of public opinion, you got to pressure your city councilman to make sure how are you going to vote on these issues? Because there are a lot of parents out there and people out there who don't believe in this kind of thing, and shame people into standing up for true equality and diversity of thought and kindness, universal kindness. The answer to racism is not more racism. And by the way, the other thing we need to do is women who have been shamed into not protecting other women by trans activists who do not speak for the trans community. The trans community generally wants to transition and be left alone. They don't want to be shaming the members of the group to which they've transitioned into silence. So women need to grow a backbone and take a risk like J.K. Rowling did. And I realize it's scary when you don't have her financial security, but we're going to get legal groups and we're going to start speaking out, and there is safety in numbers.
Megyn Kelly, this is why I never feel alone when I listen to your podcast. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us tonight.
My pleasure.